People told us, one pill can't kill you. What else was he on? And I kept saying, the autopsy shows fentanyl toxicity. They said there was enough fentanyl in the pill that he took that could kill an elephant.
The pain is almost like physical. Excuse me for a second.
I'm a completely different person than I was 16, 17 months ago.
My kids will never have their father. There's no do-over. There's no, like, going back.
And I said, and if you died, I would never recover. You do know this. And he said, it won't happen, Jill.
Michaela, Lord, she very personable, made friends with everybody, started gymnastics when she was 3, did soccer for a little bit.
Adam is a memorable kid because he was a very social person. I remember bringing him with me to the emergency room, and he sat, the nurse, watching while I'm taking care of a patient. And the nurse came and said, "How old is he?" I said, I said 7 or 8. She said, "Oh my God, he's like an adult."
In recovery, I built a life worth living. I met Danny in the rooms. It was amazing. Entering recovery, I had been in recovery, and we built a life together. And we got married, and we had 2 beautiful babies.
Scott was a nerd. He was really dorky. He wore sweatsuits, never brushed his hair. He loved to tell everyone we were twins. And I'd be like, he's my twin brother. But he was fiercely protective. He was loyal, and he had my back at all times.
In December of 2021, I had gotten a couple messages from teachers that she was on her phone a lot. And I ended up finding text messages between somebody else talking about how the guy that she was dating had overdosed in November. So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, she hangs out with him every day. Clearly he's doing something, and I assume that she's at least tried it.
2013, my son Adam had surgery from a football injury that he had, and I took him home, and when I looked at the prescription to pick it up from the CVS, it has 90 tablets of Percocet. 6 months after that surgery and after that episode of the amount of narcotic that he had, I found out that he was addicted to heroin.
But it wasn't till 2014 when he got a back injury, and workers' compensation put him on Oxycontin. And I tell everyone this was the beginning of the end. Like, this is what woke the beast in him, and he never recovered. He was on Oxycontin for 3 solid years. It was only until 2017 when the Costco pharmacist says, you have 4 scripts for 90 pills of Oxy a week, and he cuts him off completely. He desperately turned to a friend for a pill. This friend gave him what he thought was an Oxycontin. Even Scott, I have a text message. Scott sends an article about it looking fake, and this guy just texts back, people say it works.
I found out that he had been getting some over-prescribed medication, one of which being Adderall, and the other one being pain pills for a fall that he had. He started to abuse them. On
a Friday on September 2014, he called me and he said, "Dad, I happen to be here seeing the doctor, can I stop by your office?" And we talked for about an hour, literally for about an hour, and we talked about everything. And we said goodbye, and we said, "Oh, how about if we get together for lunch tomorrow? That would be Saturday." I said, "Sure, let's call me, when after you get up, and we'll get together for lunch." Never got that call. I get a call that Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, from Chippenham Hospital that he overdosed and he was in the emergency room.
Basically, he pulled into a Starbucks parking lot. It was an outdoor shopping center. People were dining al fresco. They were eating dinner. He went into Starbucks. He got a cup of coffee. My mom spoke to him briefly. He walked out. He put the cup of coffee on the roof of his car, and he dropped to one knee. And then he knelt there for 20 minutes, they say. And so a lot of people just watched him struggle. And nobody helped him.
It's like I'll never forget that terrified worry of just waiting. And the last 8 days of his life were like a total whirlwind.
I'd already told Michaela she was getting random drug tests, and she was like, it's fine, I only tried it a couple times. The stores opened at 6, went and got a drug test, came back, waited till like 9 in the morning to wake her up, and as soon as I walked into her room, it was already too late. She was in her bed. I knew the moment I walked in.
I remember seeing the officer, and before I could try and make sense of it, the officer asked, are you Julie Funkhauser? And I said yes, and he said, I'm sorry to tell you, but your husband passed away.
4 days later, he was, pronounced dead.
I called 911, my neighbors did CPR, but it had already been too long.
I will also never, I will never forget telling my daughter.
And then finally, 20 minutes later, he started making, he was snoring, and it was like a death rattle. And a gentleman tapped him on the shoulder, said, hey, are you okay? And he fell over, and he had suffocated and died from fentanyl toxicity.
So the danger with fentanyl and really any opioid is that it slows your breathing. And so you take the medication and it slows your respiratory rate to the point where you can die. Street drugs are more dangerous today than they were 15 years ago because of increase in purity and potency. And this applies to methamphetamine, cocaine, as well as opioids like fentanyl. Several years ago, we actually had a shortage of supply of heroin. And that is when these foreign labs started making these fentanyls, and they would add the fentanyls to the heroin to stretch the supply. And what they discovered is it's cheaper to make fentanyls, and it's actually more efficient. The process to make fentanyls is more efficient.
They discovered that he had, I think, like 6, 7, 8 substances in his body at time of death, fentanyl being one of them. And it was the combination of all of them that killed him.
She thought that she got a Percocet, but it was 100% fentanyl.
What's kind of dangerous about fentanyl is that it's not calibrated as to even the people who use it and think they're going to get 1 microgram of fentanyl, they may be getting 10 milligram of fentanyl.
If a person is selling a drug to someone they don't know, you have no idea what's in that pill. You have no idea what you're giving to that person and what it'll do to them or what it'll do to their family. It's not worth it. I always tell everybody, you're playing pill roulette. Selling someone a pill is just, the man that sold Scott the pill, I think about him often, and I want to know if he knows the damage this has done to my family, and how much we've suffered, and if he even knew fentanyl was in there. But he was willing to take the chance to make money off of a drug deal, and we're forever paying the price.
These pills are being made in people's garages and in their homes or wherever. When you have a pill that is not made in regulatory standing facilities, there's no one there to guide you on how much of what component goes into that pill. So that pill could be 100% fentanyl, it could be part Percocet, part fentanyl, it could have little bits and pieces all throughout the pill. Just like a chocolate chip cookie. Some cookies have more chocolate chips than others.
Well, what I know is the drugs aren't what they used to be. The fentanyl that's around now is being laced in all kinds of things. Like laced in marijuana, laced in like things that you would never think.
They range in potency or strength from 3 times as strong as morphine to 10,000 times as strong as morphine. And what we are seeing is that fentanyl is being put into tablet form that looks very similar to opioids that you might get from your doctor, that you might buy off the street. So it can look like a Percocet, it can look like an oxycodone, and you don't even know that what you're getting has fentanyl in it.
It's literally a game. Am I going to survive this time? But will I survive next time? I don't think anybody doing drugs wants to die. They want to escape whatever it is in their life that they're trying to escape, but not so much that they escape it entirely forever.
If you're bringing it into the jails and you're supplying it to these people, this is a very vulnerable population. They're incarcerated. Isolation is the worst thing for someone, even battling addiction or not. You feel alone, bringing drugs into them. And I've never taken drugs, but when I've talked to people in recovery, they say when you take drugs, it's like a warm blanket around you. You don't feel alone, you feel safe. That dopamine in your brain is being released against you, feel a false sense of happiness. It's detrimental to bring it into a jail system and to give it to someone that's incarcerated. It would do just damage beyond repair to that person and to their families.
I don't want to see anyone else die. The person who uses and dies, whoever gave it to them or sold it to them, I also know guilt can perpetuate the vicious cycle, right? Like, it's so hard to get out of that cycle of making decisions that are dangerous and having a negative consequence and getting a negative result that creates more guilt. Then you do it again and again and again, and the cycle just doesn't have to continue.
Getting clean while you're in jail and then coming out, your tolerances are completely different. And so most people go back to doing exactly what they were doing before, but the game has changed. Your tolerances have changed. You're supposed to get clean for yourself, but the effect that it has on everybody else in your life is so vastly devastating. I'm part of groups that have thousands and thousands of parents and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles who have lost somebody to drugs, specifically to fentanyl, and you're left with such a huge gaping hole.
You taking a drug that may kill you, remember, it's going to take your mom or dad with you in much more profound ways than you ever imagined. Even though you're an institution, but you hope one day you come out and you carry your kid in your arms, and life would be totally have different flavor because you have that kid. Let's say while you're picking that kid, somebody shoot that kid in front of you. How would you feel? And the way you feel is how your dad or your mom will feel when you take that drug. Please find other ways to manage, deal, cope with the stress, anxiety, and all the brain issues that you're going through that we acknowledge, and we have compassion for you for it. Don't hurt yourself, because hurting yourself, you hurt other people.